and Senate Majority Leader on legislative strategy to advance his agenda.
The pomp and circumstance plus the celebration have all died down, but now Republicans must make good on their promises to cut taxes, trim government, and reduce the deficit. That will take months, but it all starts with this meeting. Republicans have worked behind the scenes for months developing the touchstone of their legislative agenda. House Speaker Mike Johnson says it will take until spring to pass the bill.
Fox's Chad Pergam on Capitol Hill. Some conservative lawmakers raising concern about putting too much into one bill. Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer criticizing the many executive actions already taken.
Dismantling years of progress on lowering costs for American families, on energy jobs, on lowering prescription drug prices.
Schumer says a promised golden age won't be for the middle class. President Trump is directing all federal agencies to take emergency measures to reduce the cost of living. The acting Homeland Security Secretary says the Trump administration is rolling back Biden-era guidance that limited federal immigration arrests near sensitive areas, including schools, hospitals, and churches. Also issuing a directive to limit use of a parole program, allowing migrants to enter the U.S. legally on a temporary basis. It's part of a broader crackdown on illegal immigration.
We are already seeing a difference here at the border. The most obvious difference is President Trump ending this CBP Act One program. It has allowed migrants to easily book appointments on their cell phones, stay in the United States until their court dates. And critics have really called this program a concierge service for illegal migrants.
Fox's Brooke Taylor in El Paso. Lawsuits already filed over an executive order aiming to end birthright citizenship. Wall Street rallies, the Dow up 538 at the bell. America is listening to Fox News.
Want to play a game with me and Dad?
Mommy's not feeling good.
You need to vaporize that cold.
Vaporize?
Yeah, with Dayquil VapoCool. It's Dayquil plus a rush of Vicks vapors.
Whoa.
Come on, honey. Let's let Mommy rest.
You guys are amazing. And so is Dayquil VapoCool.
Dayquil VapoCool, the vaporizing daytime coughing, aching, fever, power through your day medicine. And to vaporize sore throat pain, try Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Millions of Americans take medicine like Ozempic and Zepbound. Many of them are overpaying by thousands of dollars a year. These GLP-1 medications for diabetes, weight loss, and more may not always be covered by your insurance, but GoodRx can help. GoodRx helps you save every month on prescriptions at over 70,000 pharmacies nationwide. Best of all, it's free to use. Check GoodRx to save on GLP-1s. Just go to GoodRx.com/GLP. That's GoodRx.com/GLP. GoodRx is not insurance, but can be used instead of insurance, including Medicare and other federal and state-funded programs.
Harvard University settles anti-Semitism lawsuits and will implement changes on campus.
Among changes the Ivy League school will make will be adhering to what the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance defines as anti-Semitism, which expresses hatred in physical and rhetorical forms toward people, Jewish or not. The Israel-Hamas conflict that began in October 2023 sparked protests and confrontations on U.S. college campuses. A Harvard spokesperson said the campus hopes to be a place where Jewish students can be embraced, respected, and able to thrive. A lawyer for Students Against Anti-Semitism said he believes the university can commit to those changes. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
President Trump is set to announce investments worth up to $500 billion for infrastructure tied to artificial intelligence. The White House says a new partnership known as Stargate, formed by OpenAI, Oracle, and SoftBank, will start building out projects needed for further development of AI in Texas. One airline is now accepting a new form of payment.
JetBlue will now allow customers to pay for flights using PayPal's Venmo platform. Currently, the option is available to U.S. customers on JetBlue's website and will roll out to its mobile app in the coming months. JetBlue is the first carrier to accept Venmo payments and says that the move is the latest example of how JetBlue is using digital technology to help customers customize and simplify their travel journey. The airline becomes the latest in a growing number of companies, including online merchants like Amazon and eBay, and brick-and-mortar stores like CVS that have started accepting Venmo as a payment method.
Fox's Hillary Barsky recapping the green on Wall Street. The Dow finishing up more than 500 points. That's over 1%, getting back over 44K. The NASDAQ up 126. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News.
Hello again, everyone. Let's check weather for East Central Illinois. Champaign-Urbana vicinity, cold wave weather pattern firmly ensconced here all the way down to the Gulf Coast, where at the leading edge of unsettled weather continues to generate winter storm conditions, would you believe, from the Texas Gulf Coast on eastward over the next couple of days, with cold wave weather to follow in that particular part of the country, too. Heads up on the cold going out the door this morning. We're down below zero. Later on today, a struggle up to about 4 above with sunshine. Bit of a westerly wind tonight. Not so cold. Lows near 2 below, but with slowly rising temperatures after midnight. For the day tomorrow, partly sunny, not so cold in the afternoon. Highs up to 24 on an increasing southwest to south wind. Maybe a snow shower late tomorrow night in a couple of spots on Thursday. Lows near 20 tomorrow night, up to 28 on Thursday. Sunshine 25 on Friday into the weekend. Maybe a snow shower Saturday, nothing Sunday. High temperatures will be in the 30s. Seasonal temperatures into early next week. For Stevie J Broadcasting, I'm meteorologist Greg Soldgay.
Hey, what's up? It's The Drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. Derek Piper, Kyle Tosk. Going to talk about last night's national title game win for the Big Ten for Ohio State. Did hear, Kyle, Paul Feinbaum say that college football is currently ruled by the Big Ten and how sour that's making SEC fans. So we talked about that at the end of yesterday's show, what the different variations of the narrative would be based on who would win. I don't know how, and maybe you can weigh in now that you saw it play out, now that you saw Ryan Day get his title, and Kirk Herbstreit apparently tear up a little bit in the postgame as well.
Shocking, because I thought he only watched SEC football all year.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, some of the stuff he was saying right before the playoff, I just could not understand, especially as an Ohio State guy.
Right.
I don't know why he was so, here's the SEC, push the SEC in everybody's face.
ESPN, maybe?
Yeah,
because of the marriage
true.
now.
Yeah,
you
that's
got
true.
The Big Ten not partnering with them going forward in their TV deal. Is there some of that? I think that has certainly raised some questions along the way as well. But and look, I mean, you're going to have, as these conversations are had and tough decisions need to be made. I'm with you, though. He was one of the very vocal guys as soon as Indiana lost to Notre Dame. Like, yeah, you know what? They didn't deserve to be out there. And then, of course, we saw SMU get blown out and all that. So, and the SEC really through bowl season, through the fact that they didn't have a representative in the national title game.
It was actually an SEC officiating crew for the first time in a national title game in like 15 years.
Wow.
Because they have to do an officiating crew from a conference not represented in the game.
Nice.
So it was kind of cool to see that the only representation the SEC had was the refs.
Can we get an SEC crew working Big Ten basketball games? I don't know.
Please. Yeah, anybody but the Big Ten crew that was officiating on Sunday in East Lansing, I'll take.
I don't pretend to have some intimate knowledge of what the SEC officiating looks like in comparison to the Big Ten or anything like that.
I'd take a Big East officiating crew because I feel like every time I turn on a Big East game, they're just tackling each other and just there's no whistles being blown. It's pretty nice. I'd take that. And you say it all the time, like no whistles, even if you're missing fouls that are there, but just letting guys play is so much better than making up a fourth foul on Kasparis that isn't there. And some of these whistle fests that we get where you can't even watch because there's 88 free throws and it takes 3 hours to get through the game. We just don't need any of that.
Agreed. I know we spent a lot of time on that yesterday, and it's one of those where we need another game to come up so we can have something to then focus on and see if Illinois can right the ship against Maryland and start potentially reeling off a nice win streak as it sets up, and they'll be favored in a number of those games. As we mentioned yesterday, 8 straight, according to Ken Pom. They'll be favored to win. So we'll talk Illinois basketball as we do every show. I'm sure we'll stumble into some as we go along. We are going to talk some Bears. Aaron Lemming, our guy, the Bear Report, is going to join us to talk Ben Johnson and just the magnitude of that move for the franchise and how he can maximize Caleb Williams' strengths. And I want to ask him about Caleb's fit and his system. Not to say that Ben won't adjust and tweak some things to really highlight his strengths and the personnel and everything like that. I saw a couple of takes on Twitter. Well, really, this is not a fit for what Caleb Williams is as a player. And I think coaches can figure it out. I think when you're scheming receivers open and you can do that, and you know how to make the weapons actually work and produce and all that. He doesn't need to be Jared Goff. You can take some more downfield shots. You can roll him out a little bit, and I don't know. I'm interested in what Aaron has to say about that, but I'm not too concerned about it. Are you, Kyle?
No, I think ultimately, especially if you're going to be hired as a first-time head coach, you have to be able to, I'd imagine one of the first things asked in the interview process is, we want to hear your plan for Caleb Williams, how he fits in what you do, how you're going to adjust to his strengths and get the best out of him. I mean, if you're the Bears, what else would you want to hear first before a head coaching candidate, especially an offensive guy who Caleb himself has said, and selfishly I'd prefer, an offensive-minded guy that I can mesh with. I mean, one of the first questions that has to be asked and one of the first things you have to check off your checklist is, how is the fit with Caleb? Because Caleb is the Bears going forward. He is the number one reason for a head coach to both want to be in Chicago, but also the reason that the Bears will or will not succeed in the future. So he's everything, and I'd imagine that a guy who's been tabbed as one of the best offensive coordinators in the sport the last few years can make it work with a guy of his talent that went number one overall a year ago.
I'd love to see him figure it out. I mean, it's not like Caleb is some kind of, he is a run-first quarterback, and Ben Johnson's system is built around pocket passing. Like, Caleb can throw from the pocket and all those type of things. And I don't want to spend too much time on it, but just the realization again, and the reality of, like, this lines up where you get a hotshot offensive coordinator, which Kevin O'Connell was, which Sean McVay at one time was, which your guy, I know that maybe less of your guy now, Mike McDaniel was. I'd still take Mike McDaniel.
Think of him as an offensive coordinator. I think, this year will really be the last straw of, can he actually be a head coach?
Sure, that's fair. And
good
that's
offensive
still,
coordinator, though.
Yeah, and that's still something that Ben Johnson's going to have to prove. I do like what has been reported. I heard Tom Pelissero on the Score on the drive home last night talking about how he's viewed as a demanding coach in the locker room and is somebody that's well respected, that will coach people hard. He's not just a guy that draws up some really good scheme and has good trick plays and everything. Like, he will have accountability, has in that locker room to this point. Of course, the Lions have a great roster. The Bears still have work to do, especially with the offensive line. So there is that part of it as well. And we're not going to know until – and there will be a honeymoon stage where everything's great. And as Bears fans do deserve to live in that as long as they possibly can until it gets time to produce and see how it goes. But they should be riding high, and I want to talk to Aaron about that. To go back to the national title game last night, speaking of quarterback play, not the only reason that Ohio State won. Will Howard had a heck of a playoff. Certainly made some big throws. You can knock, the one down the sideline of Jeremiah Smith late. Why is Notre Dame playing one-on-one coverage and not having help over the top on that guy?
Could not understand that call. 3rd and 11, 2 minutes left. Your season is that play. And you're going to leave Jeremiah Smith one-on-one, call it a zero blitz, and just say, we're gonna trust our guys to get there in about 0.8 seconds. Otherwise, that ball's going up to Jeremiah, and we got no help. That's not how I would go out.
It would not be my method either, for sure. And they left him wide open on the first touchdown pass for Ohio State as well.
Yeah.
So they didn't do a good enough job with him, and it was the running game too. And that was something in the offseason when you saw Travion Henderson is thought to be one of the better backs, definitely in the Big Ten, and they get Quinshon Judkins from Ole Miss, and they just had weapons galore, and that's what happens when you're able to spend the money that they spent, with $15, $20 million, whatever's been reported on their NIL for their roster. And
I think it was above 20.
20,
is
man,
what was
20 plus.
Coming. I think Texas was the only one that outspent them, and it was like in the 21-22 range. Now, a lot of that was really just bringing guys back that could have gone to the NFL as opposed to this star-studded portal extravaganza. But, yeah, it'd be nice to have 22 mil to put into your roster. I think that helps.
I guess Howard, Judkins, and Caleb Downs.
Yeah,
the safety from Alabama. And Howard was a guy, and admittedly, as somebody who's like reading it from the outside, and you get some rumors or just scuttlebutt that goes out there in the portal. It seemed like Howard wasn't, and you can chime in on this. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was the narrative not that Kansas State was kind of like, we really want to give the reins to Avery Johnson, and Will Howard can go find a different spot?
Yeah, it was.
And then, not that Kansas State had a bad season. They won, 9 games ultimately. It was a little bit different where Oklahoma's like, yeah, Jackson Arnold's really our guy. And Dylan Gabriel goes to Oregon, and Oklahoma doesn't even make a bowl game, right? A 5-win football team, and Oregon was number 1 in the country. And there is certain aspects of, how much would you have to pay to keep Gabriel. And I'm not saying that Johnson isn't a good quarterback for K-State, but Will Howard in particular, again, in the playoff, played really well. But that's not to overshadow everything that they have working. They had a complete football team, a great defense, weapons. Jeremiah Smith, who a lot of people have said, I know he's a true freshman. If he was allowed to go one and done, he'd be the number 1 pick in the draft, as many people saw that. So congrats to Ohio State, I guess, if we're able to say that around here. Don't kill me for it, but they are the champs. And if you want to take a little bit of solace, it's the fact that the SEC is hurting today, because they would have been trying to throw shade or say, aha, if Notre Dame pulled that off. But the Big Ten has back-to-back title winners. And to a point we got right before the show on the Max Twin City Recycling text line, Joe asked this, and I'd have to effort it. When was the last time Illinois hosted national champs in back-to-back seasons in football? October 11th, we'll be rocking at Memorial Stadium. Let's rush the field again. That is going to be pretty cool to see, again, that caliber. Anytime Ohio State marches into town, but chance to knock off the defending champs for 2 years in a row, a cool added bonus for Illinois there as you look towards next season.
And I don't think they're going to be this level of juggernaut next year. Now, if they're going to be a top 10 team, the spread's going to be like 17 or 20 points, whatever the case may be. But this Ohio State team does lose like 15 of their starters. They bring back Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs, and there's got a bunch of 5-stars waiting in the wings to take over. I'm sure their portal class is great, but similarly to Michigan, not as much. I would be stunned if Ohio State goes 7-5 next year with that, but it's not going to be this level of talent. I mean, this roster was an all-star roster, basically. There were guys that Ohio State got back, Jack Sawyer, their pass rusher, and some guys on the offensive line. Abuka was supposed to be a first-round pick last year, and they get him back with a huge NIL package. They get Henderson, their running back. Oh, by the way, we're also going to get one of the best portal running backs and just create a 2-headed monster. I don't know how you stop those guys. I still don't know how Michigan did it that week. And that whole thing is so weird, too. Thinking back to this team losing at home to this year's Michigan team that we all saw at Memorial Stadium in October, I just can't fathom how that happened. Ohio State must have been asleep, or Michigan must have just made that the game of their lives, knowing, hey, we're not going to make the playoff. We are going to put everything we possibly have into this to go beat Ohio State. I don't know what happened in that game. I think in the long run, it probably benefited Ohio State, because it just felt like from the second that Tennessee game kicked off in the first round, they had a chip on their shoulder, and they're going with all the, people doubted us back after the Michigan game, and I guess some people did, but ultimately, even them sitting as the 8th seed in this bracket, they were thought to be one of the favorites still coming in. I mean, this roster was just so good, said to put it together, and they pretty much dominated throughout. And I think back in August, that's what a lot of people would have expected. I still just can't get over how this team lost to Michigan. It doesn't make much sense at all.
It really doesn't, no. And it does go back to the point, which I think was a fair one after that game, that Ohio State tried to out-physical them. They didn't lean into enough of their playmakers, which could have been the big difference. Was Will Johnson out for that game for Michigan?
Yeah.
And I know he got hurt, or I know he left in the Illinois game and was out for a while, and one of Michigan's projected, 3 or 4 first-round picks in the upcoming draft, but not a good football team, and so limited offensively what Michigan could do. It is just stunning that they lost that game, and I know that as you look at it in an old system, and if you want to root against certain teams winning it and everything, now it is lesser of certain evils. Like, is Georgia going to win it in the old system? If it's the BCS and you just pick Oregon versus Georgia, you don't want nobody wants to see Georgia win again. And even in the 4-team playoff, we were talking about it yesterday, who ultimately gets that final spot, because we know that it would have been Oregon, Georgia, Texas, and would have been Penn State, would have been Notre Dame. But like that loss against Michigan would have been the dagger for Ohio State ultimately, and still they got a chance to go. And I think everybody's still sitting there, and it was a great playoff. Like, to get 4 playoff games, four rounds of that was awesome. You got a little bit of a underdog story to latch onto for a game. I mean, the Arizona State was fun.
Yeah.
Going to OT, that was a thriller and really fun to latch onto. It was very much a success. Even though Scott says last night the inauguration was more entertaining than that game. It was a snooze fest of a game as it blew open there. Notre Dame did make it interesting as that thing was going down to the wire. At least they made it a 1-score game, and Ohio State needed that first down to run it out.
It looked like it was going to be a game when Notre Dame came out at a 10-minute drive where they just marched it down the field. Now, you knew they weren't going to be able to sustain that because Riley Leonard ran it like 9 times, and it was 4 yards, 3 yards, 2 yards, 4th and 1, 2 yards. Like, you weren't going to do that all night, but it was exactly what Notre Dame wanted. If Notre Dame was going to win, it was going to be a low possession, grind it out. Notre Dame keeps the ball out of Ohio State's hands as much as possible. I'm like, okay, Notre Dame came to play, and then 31 unanswered points from Ohio State. Notre Dame kind of makes a push. I still can't understand kicking a field goal down 16 with 8 minutes left inside the 10 and then missing the field goal. It felt like kind of deserved for making that decision with your season on the line.
You still need 2 touchdowns. Now, maybe in the math is like, well, it's going to be unlikely or so challenging for us to get 2 touchdowns and 2 two-point conversions that we'll just take 3 here. But, yeah, I don't think the analytics people, unless there was one whispering in Marcus Freeman's ear that's the right call, I don't think they would agree with that move.
I certainly didn't, and especially given the fact their 2-point conversion call after that was phenomenal. Like, you have that in your back pocket, you should have more confidence in that. Even still, Notre Dame had a chance to get the ball back, and then the Jeremiah Smith ball. I still can't understand that. Everything about that play, it's 3rd and 11, it's not 3rd and 2. Every single piece of your defense should be focused on number 4, and if anybody else beats you, say that's good. If Will Howard makes a tight window throw to Ibuka or Carnell Tate or whatever, scrambles, you just can't. I can't get over the fact that Jeremiah Smith was running free on that last play. I would have loved to see Notre Dame just have one more drive there to pique my interest, but ultimately Ohio State pretty much dominated the game other than that little run by Notre Dame. It was pretty much that way the whole playoff. I mean, even that Texas game, which Texas obviously got down to the 1-yard line with a chance to tie, Ohio State outplayed them pretty clearly. They just had so many penalties early in that game that kind of kept Texas in it. It just felt like Ohio State ran through this playoff. And I think maybe the Michigan game was part of that, where it really woke them up to, like, we just lost to that team with this roster. You know, and now you get 3 weeks off, and it just felt like they came in and bulldozed people and showed off their talent, and it just no one could stay on the field with them. I mean, what they did to Oregon was insane. That was the statement game where you felt like after that game, I don't know who's beating this team. After they dismantled Oregon, who was the number 1 team, only undefeated team, and they really didn't get truly threatened all that much after.
Yeah, and to them, as far as the credit goes, there was a ton of noise around that program, as we know.
Certainly
right
Ryan Day.
Yeah, and maybe it went obviously too far. People were calling for his job and saying that it should be done regardless, ultimately. And I know we referenced like the Herb Street line. It was like, does Ohio State really want to play this first-round game in Columbus? They'll probably get booed on their first 3 and out. Like, some of that went way too far, obviously. But to his credit, as much as you may not enjoy Ohio State hoisting the trophy, like, they got it done. They answered the call and played their best football when it mattered most, and they are the champs. I know that Randy asked, is the Ohio State quarterback eligible to return next season? I don't believe so.
He is not.
This was his 5th season in college, and even if what's been proposed and apparently has momentum is the idea of the NCAA agreeing to a 5 years to play 5 type of thing, to where we're going to extend it out, where you're going to have 5 years of eligibility. He would not fall into that category, so they will have to get a replacement.
Is that something that could happen soon? Like,
the reporting on that
year?
seems like, yeah.
But
seems
it's
like
not,
it could.
It's not going to be a case where, let's say, they make a ruling on that in June, and all the guys that just ended their eligibility this year can get up off their couch and say, I'm back.
Right.
I got a 5th year. Is it just going to be going forward?
It would need to be decided by the end of this semester, right? So that you can have some player. Well, really, like, to put programs in a good position to make their roster building decisions, and then let the players decide what they want to do. You would think that needs to come pretty soon.
Well, and the other part of it too is rosters are shrinking, right? I think roster sizes are shrinking now, at least in terms of like the back end of the roster. I guess it doesn't impact, if your starting quarterback wants to come back, you have a spot for him. But isn't that true also, that it's going down from like 120 to 105 or something?
I believe that's right. We'll see how that plays out. It's hard to have a lot of clarity as far as that goes, but it has been reported. I know for sure that seems to be on its way. Whether it will be in place for this upcoming season, we do know that as far as the JUCO ruling, or non-D1, if you played at NAIA like Benham Rickhouse in basketball, JUCO and football, which certainly is helping J.C. Davis be able to come back. I know Wes asked, has Zachary Franklin played 5 years? That's a good question.
I think he's played 6 actually.
Okay.
But
he would have been one of the COVID season guys, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and you're not tacking on an additional. It's pretty much turning to where you had COVID year guys get that 5th year if they hit that window, and now they want to be able to just avoid as much as they can the lawsuits going forward on a 5th year, and just it seems like they're just going to try to grant everybody a 5 year for 5. Yeah, he was in college football for 6 seasons, so Zachary Franklin is not walking back to that door for Illinois football. Unfortunately, they do have plenty returning, which is why they are high in some of these way too early top 25s. The final AP poll for this past season did come out today, and Illinois landed in a pretty good spot. Was it 17 overall?
I think it was 16.
16.
1 spot in front of Alabama.
How about that? Yeah, I pulled up Jeremy Warner's article on Illini Inquirer. He has here, number 16 in the top 25 AP poll, rose 5 spots previously before the Citrus Bowl. They were 21st and then moved up to 16. It's the highest ranking postseason-wise for Illinois since 2001, coming off the Sugar Bowl. Of course, they lost that to LSU, but they did finish 12th in the rankings. There's only, according to Jeremy's story, only been 4 times since 1991 that Illinois finished the season in the AP top 25, the final one, and that's 1999 they were 24th, 2001 they were 12th, 2007 they were 20th, and 2024 they were 16th. That, of course, with a lot of pieces coming back, 16 starters, I believe, from last year's team, including some big pieces. Of course, we've seen big decisions. Luke Altmaier announcing his return. You've got Gabe Akis, J.C. Davis, and on down the list. You got your whole secondary back, your running backs returning. It's all 5 offensive linemen, right? Now that
That's right.
You've seen Melvin Priestley return as well. It was crazy. You mentioned before the show that, is it On3 has them as a top 10 team preseason?
They have them 7th.
That's insane.
Get a load of this order: Texas, Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, Notre Dame, Georgia, Illinois.
Man. Usually those teams are all grouped together, right? In terms of the same plane that they're operating on.
Usually.
Yeah, right.
I mean, a couple exceptions, but
just a few. ESPN's Mark Schlabach has Illinois at 13th, which still is pretty darn high.
Feels like it got to be a consensus top 15 team going into next year. I'd be surprised if that first AP poll comes out and they're outside the top 15, considering you finished 16th this year and you bring back a ton. I think 7 may be a little high, but hey.
Feels like it a little bit.
I think somewhere in that 12 to 15 range feels about right.
I agree with you. I think with what they showed in beating a very, very quality South Carolina team, and one that gets Luke Altmaier back, who should only improve in terms of his trajectory and the running game and some of these pieces like Hank Beatty to show up in that game like he did was encouraging. Still a question mark about the receiving core ultimately, because to go from Pat Bryant and Zachary Franklin to something different and not to have like bona fide studs. We'll see what Justin Bowick is, Hudson Clement. You can go on through the list. Of course, Malik Elzy, will he step up? But I think the secondary's return is huge. Gabe Akis' return is huge. The running backs of Lawfrey and McCray and getting Caden Fagan, of course, getting all those guys back. There's a lot to work with. And I think there is still, of course, maybe a little bit of hesitation or just got to see it stacking 2 seasons together. It's been something that Illinois as a program has really struggled with and flat out been unable to do through the years. But Brett Bielema certainly has a lot of experience with it, and there's a lot of belief that he's earned and deservingly so. I was looking before the show, when's the last time, if we do say, which it looks like to be lining up as it is now, that Illinois will be a preseason top 15 team. When's the last time that was the case? You have to go all the way back to 1990. John Makovic's team that year ended up going 8-4. They finished 25th in the AP postseason poll. They were ranked as high as 5th at one point during that season. But that was a nice little run there for Illinois. Had 10 wins the year before, 8-4 that season. But they were 11th preseason, which seems crazy. My entire lifetime, I was yet born when that season was kicking off, and even as it was finishing in Illinois right now, based on the national profile. And I think they will ride a lot of buzz with that bowl game win, which I love about it. I love that game should matter, and it does. It matters in terms of perception and everything, and that's going to help Illinois in terms of how they'll be viewed going into next season. And as we've talked about, the games ultimately prove everything out and whatnot, but the starting point, we've talked about it before, does matter in terms of how you're perceived and where the jockeying for position in the college football playoff rankings and all that kind of thing is important as it starts. And if Illinois is a preseason top 15 team, you think about attendance too and just buzz and all that, recruiting, that would be huge.
And I was thinking too, circling back to the original text about that Ohio State game next year, if there was ever a game for College Game Day to finally come to Champaign, I don't think you're going to find a better opportunity for a while than that game October 11th next year. If Illinois can take care of business before that, in a schedule that is somewhat manageable, there's going to be some tougher games here. At Duke, that second game is, I don't know, Duke just spent a ton of money on some portal quarterback. They won 9 games
from
this past
Tulane,
year.
right?
That's not going to be an easy game. And then at Indiana, if they can reload enough with Cignetti, and then USC comes to Champaign. So there's going to be some tougher games in there. But if Illinois can get to that Ohio State game with maybe just one loss, keep their top 15-ish ranking. Ohio State, they start the season with Texas next year, which will be interesting to see. After that, they should win every game. So at maximum, they should be at one loss coming here. Top 10 ranking, no question. I mean, that's about as good of a chance as you're going to get. And College Game Day has shown recently the tendency to want to go to places they haven't been before. This year they went to Cal. That wasn't a Cal team worth anything against Miami. And a couple years ago they went to Kansas when they were off to a good start. I think it's possible. Illinois' got to force the issue by playing well enough. Heck, if you go undefeated heading into that game and rise into the top 10, I think your odds go way up. But just maybe College Game Day in Champaign. I think that's the one you circle. Really, I don't know if you're going to get a better one in the next 5 years than that one.
I know. That's a great call. I love that thought of the way it aligns. Defending champs coming to town, Illinois, highly thought of going into the year, a lot back. Luke Altmaier, a quarterback that can lead you and put a lot of confidence in terms of your ability to tackle some of those early season challenges as well. So let's get it done, man. That would be insane. that would be the atmosphere around Memorial Stadium would be just bonkers for that game. And
the other games that week, I just pulled this up too.
Sweet.
South Carolina at LSU. That one is a possibility. Those are going to be 2 top 15 teams. Alabama at Missouri. I don't think Missouri is going to be preseason ranked unless I don't know what they get back. I guess, they've been towards the back end of the top 25. Indiana at Oregon. I don't think Indiana's going to replicate what they did, are they? Especially if Illinois beats them.
Wouldn't
then
imagine
there you go.
so, no.
That's really it in terms of ranked, unranked. Florida at Texas A&M, depending on how those two do. But it's, there's no Georgia, Alabama that
Sure.
week.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I like it. We're
Get to that game, keep your top 15 ranking, and make them say no to you.
I like it. Yeah. No doubt. Let's make it happen. I don't want to say it's been long overdue because Illinois hasn't made it feel overdue or like they were due it at all for a long stretch of time. But this would be a real opportunity that it's reasonable that they can be in that position, that Ohio State should be in that position to make that a game that they want to come see. And, we're a long way from the Phil Steele's coming out this upcoming summer, so I don't know off the top of my head. Do you have any idea, like, how much is Indiana supposed to bring back?
I thought they were losing quite a bit. Like, they had a bunch of senior transfers and older guys this year to where they're going to have to reload pretty heavily. I know, like, Curtis Rourke's not back. I don't know who their quarterback's going to be if they got one from the portal. I would imagine they're not going to go 11-1 again. And you can't have that schedule again, right? I'd be interested to see their schedule.
No doubt. Who's the celebrity guest picker for Illinois?
That's a good question.
Sean Evans, maybe? We need somebody who can make – it's hard to live up to the Shane Gillis, Notre Dame, and make the Alabama Jones joke at Nick Saban, which was fantastic. But, let's put that out to the text line, 217-359-2255. If Illinois is hosting Ohio State next year, College Game Day rolls into town, who do you want to see as the celebrity guest picker? We will talk to Aaron Lemming coming up at the top of next hour. Chicago Bears hire their guy, Ben Johnson. What's next for them? How's the fit with Caleb Williams? And we'll take your text as we go along, 217-359-2255. We will be back. This is The Drive.
Take charge of the years ahead with a smart, sound investment strategy and business succession plan. Busey Bank's business and wealth management experts help you envision your best future with powerful insights and proven strategies. Building business and growing wealth since 1868. Busey Bank, proud to be the official bank of the Fighting Illini. Member FDIC.
Calling all brave souls to the Polar Plunge with us at the annual Law Enforcement Torch Run Polar Plunge at the Lake of the Woods in Mahomet on Saturday, February 15th, starting at noon. Donations from the Polar Plunge ensure free year-round sports trainings, competition, health initiatives, and athlete leadership programs to local Special Olympic Illinois athletes. Raise $100 in donations to take the plunge and receive the official Polar Plunge hoodie. Register today at plungeillinois.com. Thank you to the Mahomet Polar Plunge gold sponsors, Busey Bank, Dick's House of Sports, Heartland Coca-Cola, Domino's, Corbin Bell Dive and Rescue, and Stevie J Broadcasting.
Hi, this is Vanessa Duncan with Special Olympics Illinois, Region I. Recruit your friends and family to be on your Polar Plunge team and raise donations for Special Olympics Illinois.
Be cool this winter and take the Polar Plunge. The 2025 Law Enforcement Torch Run Polar Plunge supporting Special Olympics will be at the Lake of the Woods in Mahomet on Saturday, February 15th. Register today at plungeillinois.com. That's plungeillinois.com.
At Pards in Urbana, the boots just keep on coming. They're known for their huge collection of men's cowboy boots, women's cowgirl boots, kids' boots, and even shoes. If you're searching for top footwear brands, look no further than Pards. They carry a wide variety, including Ariat, Dan Post, Smoky Mountain, Roper, Double H, and more. And if socks or accessories are what you need, they've got all your high-quality essentials. Since 1968, Pards has been serving their customers with high-quality merchandise. And if you haven't been to Pards in a while, a lot has changed. Go check them out just off University Avenue in Urbana.
Are you tired of shivering in the winter? Look no further than your local heroes at ABC Heating and Air Conditioning. Hi, this is Gina inviting you to give us a call at 217-352-5400 to book your appointment to make sure your furnace is run safely and efficiently this winter. We've been proudly locally owned and operated and have been serving our community for over 50 years. ABC, always be comfortable. Call me 217-352-5400 to book your appointment today or go to abcheatingandac.com.
Sarah Champagne Managing Partner Ben Quattrone.
We're always looking for people. You can go online and apply on our website. We never know what we're going to need. We're always expanding. We're always building more and growing our business. If we don't need a person and they come along and we find out that they're an eagle, they're a star, we'll hire them. We'll put them somewhere and wait for the spot we're going to have them working.
Learn more at sarahchampagne.com.
In 1925, a small plumbing company began its journey in Urbana, Illinois. Over the decades, the business grew thanks to hard work and great people. In 1966, things changed when Dave Reichard, a veteran, met veteran Ken Asklin, who was an architectural engineering grad from Illinois. The two realized their shared vision for excellence. Their partnership took root, and in 1975, the name changed to A&R Mechanical. With Dave as president and Ken as vice president, A&R Mechanical expanded services, becoming the go-to full-service contractor for all of Central Illinois. A&R went from a plumbing-only contractor to a full-service mechanical contractor with their own sheet metal shop. Today, A&R is a plumbing, heating, ventilation service company with the same excellence in customer service as they provided nearly 100 years ago. Design, build, and maintain. That's what served A&R Mechanical for nearly 100 years. Find them at Lincoln and Kettering in Urbana or online at ar-mech.com.
Holiday hangover got you feeling weighted down. We're not talking candy, pie, and eggnog-induced pounds. We're talking about the clutter chaos. Old furniture, tangled lights, and junk galore. Time to detox your space with 2 Men in a Junk Truck. Ditch the junk and start fresh. Head to 2menjt.com and schedule your junk removal today. Use code NEWYEAR25 and score $25 off your next junk removal. Offer valid at 2 Men in a Junk Truck, Champaign, Illinois.
Back on the Drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. The most popular answer to the guest game day picker, according to the text line, Nick Offerman. Of course.
That'd be a good one.
Star of Parks and Rec. That would be. Alumni, funny dude. See him on the score, or you see him on the scoreboard, video board. His little,
That's right, yeah.
Let's make some noise. Yeah, he'd be good. He'd be good. We were trying to brainstorm some others. We got some other suggestions on the text line. Wes says Hugh Hefner would have been awesome. Yeah. Joe says Shad Khan. Would that make up for the whole honorary degree dispute? Joe didn't say that. I did. I don't know.
Can you bring a check with him, maybe?
Yeah, right. That'd be fair trade. Fair trade. If we can get Illinois up to the $20 million range. Lasagna King.
He shows up and matches Ohio State's roster number.
Sounds good to me. Sounds good. 217, the Lasagna King, Tim Beckman. 651, I mentioned this off the air to Kyle. Taylor Rooks. Possible. She's still working her way up in the media world. She's going to be on, is it Amazon? Or
Amazon NBA stuff now, I think.
Yeah, that's big for her, and certainly has a real NBA presence, and I know that she's had plenty of stars on her podcast and has done some TNT work as well. Shane says Bill Murray. I'd be down for that. I know he didn't go here. He is just kind of like the Illinois bandwagon. Now he was at the Elite Eight game, Illinois and UConn, supporting UConn because his son is a staffer there, of course.
I feel like I see him pop up everywhere rooting for different teams all the time.
You're calling him a bandwagoner?
Just mixes it up.
It's not as bad as my guy Drake.
Yeah.
Drake is definitely One of the worst as far as that goes. LeBron was at Ohio State, or was at the Ohio State game last night repping the Buckeyes just by not going there. I know he got flack for that. Not that you have to go to a school to be a fan of it.
He has been a long time Ohio State guy. So
I don't blame him. As much as I would love to take chances at ribbing LeBron or sliding him a little bit, I'm not going to do that. Randy says, I got Lonte, Jerry Colangelo, and D. Brown. Is that in order, Randy, of preference? Lon, Jerry, and D. You can call me Sal, Lon, Pipes, and Kyle. Lon would cancel last minute.
Could you imagine if just it was they put the graphic on social media and it was Lonte as this guest picker and everybody's like, who? I've never heard of this guy.
And then he sends a text to Chris Fowler, boys, ... Can't make
My
the show
flight
today.
from Florida didn't quite make it home in time. You're going to have to get somebody else.
A little behind the scenes for our guy here. Brian, how about Coleman Hawkins? He'll be there anyway, LOL. Or better yet, Georgie.
They have done athletes a lot, but it'd have to be somebody who is prominent in a pro league. Like, would Ayo Dosunmu be a big enough name to come back and do it? One of these NFL guys that's playing well.
I would love it for Ayo. I don't know that them selling it probably does it quite for a guy. I mean, he's played decently well for the Bulls.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good player, but he's a role player that your average fan wouldn't probably know. Like Kyle Schwarber did it when Indiana got it this year, and everybody knows him. You know?
Yeah, of course.
So,
got a couple of votes for Michelle Smallman of ESPN. Sean Evans, I mentioned that. I think Sean Evans might be the guy I would go with.
He's up there
Can
for
we,
sure, right?
We can maybe even work in like a Hot Ones. They're eating insanely hot wings while they're giving the picks. Maybe don't give it to Lee Corso if he's still doing it. We don't want any medical emergencies. Brian, just like listening to George. Georgie's awesome, man. I think from a personality standpoint, that would be everything you'd want. A showman.
For sure.
A showman that you'd want to put out there for sure, no doubt. Kasper Giacochonis?
I don't think he'd be a good one. Haven't seen him. I don't think so.
I know. Hey, he might be like the third pick in this past year's draft, but yeah.
Yeah, talk about the most prominent athlete in a pro league from Illinois. It might be Kasper Giacochonis in a year.
It's true. I mean, we were talking about this recently. I guess I didn't realize how high the rookie pay scale is if you're in the top 5. Like, he'd essentially make like, what is it, $18 million in his first 2 years, which would be guaranteed. And the team options in year 3 and year 4 could pay him up to $40 million in his first contract.
Wow. Is that just for the top 5? Or
that's the top 5, yeah. So, like,
declines as the pick
yeah
value goes down.
Yeah, I think if you're a late first, for Terrence, what is it, like $2.5 million?
Something like that.
A year, somewhere in that range.
Man, he keeps going up, down from the G League and just can't get on the floor for Minnesota, who has not been that good this year.
They haven't. They've been very disappointing. I saw Dante DiVincenzo just went on the injured list, but unfortunately Terrence is hurt at the same time.
I did see that.
Brian says Jeff George. Does Darren Williams have enough appeal still?
That's actually a good call. He would be on the list.
We need him to fight somebody again.
Yeah.
Like, he fought Frank Gore. He won, to his credit. He was on the Team USA. Obviously, you're not worried about how he'd be viewed by the local crowd or Illini fans watching. I think he's known enough by.
If you're an NBA fan, you know Darren Williams,
Darren Williams
very
is, right?
well, I think.
Yeah.
He was an all-star.
Yeah. We can work with that.
I think that's a good call. I would have never thought of that.
Kendall Gill. Is that too far back?
Probably. But he's doing Chicago Sports Network stuff all the time now.
Yeah. All right, so we need, before it's October 11th, so maybe like, I don't know, July, Darren Williams versus Jake Paul.
I was about to say that when you brought that up.
Let's
I'm
get
like,
it done. Or
does
just
Darren
do
Williams
it
have
that
enough
weekend.
appeal to be the next Jake Paul opponent that Netflix crashes for? I don't know.
Can we do Illinois, Ohio State, like a 2:30 kickoff, and then from the State Farm Center? Probably not a big enough venue. What they just do? The Netflix fight was at Jerry World, right?
I think so.
Yeah, probably not enough seats. But Darren versus Jake Paul, State Farm Center, Saturday night.
I'd show up to that.
I would too.
Absolutely.
I would too. Yeah, no, that's good.
Let's actually make this a reality. Let's not lose 3 games before that one. Let's get a top 15 Illinois versus number 4 Ohio State. I think College Game Day wants to venture off into these new places. We just saw it with Indiana this year, but you just got to give them a reason. You can't lose to Duke. Get that game to be as meaningful as possible. I think there's a real possibility of this happening, and then we can really start forecasting.
I think that's like the one thing. Now, nobody on the football side has experienced it, but that's like the one thing I have on Kyle from my college experience versus his to date is College Game Day came for basketball when I was in school. Outside of that, he's by far and away blown past the success on the court and the football field and all of that.
And football's my only chance now because College Game Day only does SEC games now because that's the only thing that – or SEC and ACC. They'll go to Duke, I'm sure, for Duke, North Carolina. But they won't go to a Big Ten school anymore because they don't carry Big Ten games.
It stinks.
Whereas at least the football game day, like games that are on Fox, they'll still go to. I think college basketball game day just does, because Jay Billis is there and then he's calling the game. So there's going to be no more Big Ten college hoops game day, which isn't as cool as the football one anyway. But
yeah, so if Kyle gets that,
this is my only chance. I mean, next year's my senior year. That's it. Like that is the chance for College Game Day to come.
Could you make the 30-yard field goal for whatever the payout is?
I don't think so. I think I'd totally embarrass myself with that kick. Pat McAfee would be making fun of me. I'd hit somebody in the 4th row. I don't think so.
You can call me Sal. Jay Lehman on Hopium. Or for Hopium. I said on Hopium. We'd all be on Hopium if College Game Day was in town. Let's be honest. Not to be confused, of course, with opium. It's the legal hopium. Nick Allegretti, 217 says Nick Allegretti has 3 Super Bowl rings.
It's true. Would he be a big enough name, though? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Lindy, Darren has a gold medal as well. Yeah, I think
really
Darren
like that call.
Is one that should be considered more.
I think that's a real possibility. You wouldn't have to go super far down the list of candidates to get to him.
All right, if we're gonna list the top group, is it Darren, Sean Evans, Nick Offerman? Are we good? Are we good with that? Am I missing one?
It's probably my top 3.
I think that's my top 3 as well. Keep filing those.
Honorable mention, Lante. Just off the list.
217-359-2255. Continue to file those in. You got suggestions, guess College Game Day picker if they are in town come October when Illinois is hosting Ohio State. Wes says Chase Brown. Had a nice season this year.
I think one of the NFL guys would be a possibility, like a Kirby Joseph or a Devin Witherspoon or a Brown brother. I think that'd be one that...
Tommy DeVito and his agent. Talk about recognizable. You can't mistake. There's only one of those dudes. Okay, I should say in sports, like, was it they played in New Orleans? He wore an all green suit with a hat. Just
I almost feel like if Game Day came to Champaign right after the whole DeVito thing when that went viral, they might have done that.
Yeah.
I don't think 2 years
Not
from now,
now.
no one's gonna. That's worn off. But
yeah, you're right.
Unless Tommy starts again for somebody.
You're right. But we're there's probably some more candidates than we're dealing with a limited list because you don't have like a ton of obvious star power like in the professional leagues. But at the same time, you do have some options. I like I am liking more and more the Darren call. I think maybe if you don't overthink it with like Sean Evans or Nick Offerman, you can't go wrong there.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Brian Allegretti may have 4 rings if someone doesn't figure out how to stop Jaden Daniels. Am I safe enough now as being happy, thrilled with Ben Johnson that I can be all right with Jaden Daniels winning a Super Bowl and not have it be too sour or too much of a, man, the Bears really messed up there?
If Jaden Daniels goes out and beats the Eagles and then beats Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, it's going to be hard for Caleb to top that anytime soon.
Yeah.
Even with Ben Johnson. So I don't know. That'd be incredible if he did that. I don't think so. I think the Eagles probably take care of Washington, but Daniels has been impressive. What he did against Detroit, he was really good as a rookie going in there against a team that had just ran through the league all year. I certainly think they can beat Philadelphia. They're playing that well. And Nick Allegretti just gets the Super Bowls. Wherever he goes, a Super Bowl berth goes. So maybe it's in Washington this year.
That'd be pretty cool, both for him and I'm comfortable enough with the situation in Chicago. I can root for Jaden Daniels now.
I'll certainly be rooting for Washington. You got Allegretti, Johnny Newton, Quan Martin, who already made his mark on the postseason. It's kind of the Illini NFL squad now. I guess them and who else? The Bengals have some guys now with Chase Brown and
who else?
Ted Karras.
Was there another guy that
Isaiah Williams?
Yes.
He was in Cincy returning punts towards the end of the year.
That's right. Good stuff there. We're going to talk Bears as we transition into the next segment here coming up. It's Dennis Allen who's been reported. I know they have to go through a process and interview some candidates, but has been very much tied to the Chicago defensive coordinator job. That's another thing I want to ask Aaron about. I know that when he was in New Orleans, did he have multiple stints there? I think when he was with Sean Payton, I think maybe prior to getting a head coaching gig. Was he not the DC when the Bounty Gate was going down? I think he was.
He might have been.
Yeah. That's fine. Ultimately. A lot of cap space in Chicago. How they're going to figure that, which do they prioritize? They are slotted to make the 10th pick in the draft. I also wanted to ask Aaron about just there's been reported a lot of surprise out there in terms of, Diana Rossini tweeted about other people kind of like, man, my sources are all pretty, I wouldn't say stunned, but just kind of there's a surprise about the fact that Chicago was able to get this thing done as they did. And it does seem like, to the McCaskey's credit, they ponied up on the money side. It's been reported out there. I think it was Mike Florio who we haven't seen the exact contract details, but he's floated out there about $13.5 million per year, which top 7 or 8 in the league, which is goes against some of the reputation that they carried previously of, hey, you can say all you want about dream candidates, but if they don't pay up, which there was skepticism they would for Harbaugh, who ended up getting $16 million a year at the Chargers. Obviously, they did what needed to be done to push that over the finish line. So look forward to our visit coming up with our guy, Aaron Lemming. Stick around for that. It is The Drive.
Is the plumbing in your home driving you crazy? From leaks to drips or remodels, Dogtown Heating, Air, and Plumbing has you covered. Voted CU's #1 plumbing company, and there's a reason. Treating all customers like friends. Backed up sewers, clogged drains. Call today. Dogtown Heating, Air, and Plumbing, 217-841-4728, or visit dogtownheatingandair.com. Dogtown Heating, Air, and Plumbing, your home's best friend.
Attention drivers. When it comes to your car, trust matters. That's why savvy drivers choose PDR Automotive for top-notch service and unbeatable quality. From routine maintenance to complex repairs, their team of expert technicians has the skill and experience to keep your vehicle running smoothly. At PDR Automotive, customer satisfaction is their priority, and they won't rest until your car is back on the road performing at its best. Visit PDR Automotive in Urbana today, family-owned and operated for more than 50 years. They're what's best for your truck or car. They are PDR.
Good morning, First Federal Savings Bank. How may I direct your call?
Speak with friendly, real people during lobby hours. It matters when you call First Federal Savings Bank of Champaign-Urbana. A real person located at the bank. Not a recording answers your call during lobby hours. Personal, friendly service makes a difference. 217-356-BANK.
Thank you for calling. Have a great day.
Rated 5-star superior by Bauer Financial, Inc. Fast, friendly, and local with local loan decisions and underwriting. If you're not already banking with us, give us a try. We think you'll love it here. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS 435120.
You're listening to WSJK ESPN 93.5 Tuscola, Champaign-Urbana, your home for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Back. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. On paper, at least, the Trump administration announcing it's reinstating the program that forces many asylum seekers to wait in Mexico for their U.S. cases to be resolved, though it's not clear yet what Mexico's reaction will be. A Trump executive order aiming to end birthright citizenship is already being challenged in court.
The executive order renders many children born on American soil without citizenship, creating for the first time a class of American-born children whose health and well-being are threatened by their own government.
New Jersey Attorney General Matthew Platkin leading a lawsuit by 18 states, D.C. and San Francisco. The American Civil Liberties Union also filing suit. Trump border czar Tom Homan calls birthright citizenship a major driver of illegal immigration. He also says immigration agents around the country have started a crackdown.
ICE teams are out there as of today. We gave them the direction to prioritize public safety threats that we're looking for. So we've been working up the target list.
Homeland Security also announcing a rollback of Biden-era guidance that limited federal immigration arrests near sensitive areas, including schools, hospitals, and churches. Fox News just learning that multiple career staffers in the Justice Department's criminal and national security divisions have been removed from their posts and reassigned. An exact number not yet known. President Trump set to announce a new partnership formed by OpenAI, Oracle, and SoftBank, expected to invest billions on infrastructure projects needed to further development of artificial intelligence. Parts of the southern U.S. getting a big dose of winter weather from Texas to North Carolina.
Eastern North Carolina will see the greatest effects, in some counties up to 8 inches of snow.
Governor Josh Stein urging people to stay off the roads. That storm prompting the first ever blizzard warnings for several Gulf Coast counties near the Texas-Louisiana border. America is listening to Fox News.
You okay?
I can't sleep with this cough.
Sounds like you need to vaporize that cold.
Vaporize?
Yeah, with NyQuil VapoCool. It's NyQuil plus a rush of Vicks vapors.
Whoa.
So you ready to get some sleep? Thank you, NyQuil VapoCool.
NyQuil VapoCool, the vaporizing nighttime coughing, aching, fever, best sleep with a cold medicine. And to vaporize sore throat pain, try Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Did you know you can get your prescriptions for less at your local pharmacy? You can with GoodRx. It's the free app that can save you money on your medications. Just search for your prescription, choose the pharmacy and the price that works best for you, and then show your GoodRx coupon to your pharmacist at the drop-off counter. GoodRx works at over 70,000 pharmacies, including Walmart, Rite Aid, and Walgreens, and it works whether you have insurance or not. It's easy to save. Next time you drop off your prescription, check GoodRx. To start saving today, go to GoodRx.com. GoodRx is not insurance.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio becomes the first Trump cabinet member to be sworn in after unanimous confirmation in the Senate.
One of the primary goals of American foreign policies is the promotion of peace. Of course, peace through strength, peace and always without abandoning our values. But I think it's extraordinary that it's something that needs to be said and hasn't been said enough in recent memory.
Rubio also says President Trump has made clear everything done has to be justified by either making America stronger, safer, or more prosperous. Several other nominees have cleared committees and will head to the full Senate, including the Defense, Homeland Security, CIA, and Treasury picks. 2 Americans are freed in a prisoner swap with the Taliban.
The Taliban-run Afghan Foreign Ministry revealing the 2 U.S. citizens were exchanged for Khan Mohammed, a member of the Taliban who was serving a life sentence in California for drug trafficking and terrorism. Americans Ryan Corbett and William McKenty freed in the deal brokered before President Biden left office. Corbett arrested in Afghanistan in 2022. His family says, "Our hearts are filled with overwhelming gratitude," thanking both former President Biden and President Trump for their efforts to secure his release. White House National Security Council spokesman Brian Hughes saying in a statement, The Trump administration will continue to demand the release of all Americans held by the Taliban.
Fox's Christian Goodwin, the last surviving member of the band, has died.
Garth Hudson, the organist who defined the sound of the band, has died at 87. He passed away peacefully in his sleep Tuesday morning at a nursing home in Woodstock, New York. Hudson was the quiet force behind the band, originally known as the Hawks, who backed Bob Dylan on his legendary 1966 rock tour. Hudson was classically trained and brought a complexity that bandmate Robbie Robertson, who died in 2023, praised as brilliant in his memoir.
Fox's Michelle Polino. I'm Lisa Brady. This is Fox News.
Hello again, everyone. Let's check weather for Eastern Florida, Champaign-Urbana vicinity. Cold wave weather conditions here for the day today. Sunshine. Temperatures on a struggle. Gusty westerly winds. Highs to about 4 above. Pay heed to the various cold-related advisories and warnings that affect over the area. Overnight lows tonight down near 2 below this evening, but with slowly rising temperatures after midnight. Fair skies, southwest to south wind on the increase. Partly sunny for the day tomorrow. Not so cold in the afternoon. Southwest to south winds continue on. A high about 24. Maybe a fleeting snow shower in spots late tomorrow night into Thursday. No accumulation. 20 tomorrow night up to 28 on Thursday. Sunshine and 25 for the day on Friday into the weekend. Another passing snow shower flurry chance on Saturday. Nothing Sunday. More clouds and sun, but temperatures return to perhaps even top out above seasonal levels at 36 on Saturday, 37 on Sunday. Quiet weather continuing on into early next week. Monday and Tuesday, some sunshine. Highs into the low to mid 30s. For TVJ Broadcasting, I'm meteorologist Greg Solgay.
It is the Drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. One correction to make. Yes, it was Greg Williams, the defensive coordinator for the Saints during Bountygate. Dennis Allen on that staff, I believe, definitely previously with Sean Payton, gets the job for the Raiders, ends up going back there as the DC and then ultimately the head coach. Got some other submissions for the celebrity guest picker if Illinois were to get College Game Day. One that I thought of and we can talk about, maybe, I don't know, Brad Underwood after a Final Four appearance.
He'd be entertaining for sure.
No doubt.
He'd enjoy himself.
No doubt. Speaking of entertaining, talking Bears these days, at least after the news comes out, and our guy who we love talking Bears with the most, Aaron Lemming from the Bear Report, joining us now on the Tapman's Towing phone line. We have him on to gripe, to grumble, to troubleshoot, to figure things out. Now, after Caleb Williams got drafted, that was a fun time to live in what the future would be. But to pair him with Ben Johnson, offensive coordinator from the Lions, now the Bears head coach, it's a good time up in Chicago and for all Bears fans. So, Aaron, how you doing, man? I know it's been a busy time after this announcement, but this is having the Bears fans buzzing. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm doing good. How about you guys? You guys, everything good?
Everything's great. Lon is on a beach, so I'm not doing as well as he is. It's about 1 degrees here in Champaign. So it could be better, but, I'm feeling warm and fuzzy about Ben Johnson as a Bears fan.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, right? I've been thinking about this since yesterday. There has very rarely been a time in, my lifetime, which has been 35 years, where the Bears have had things line up twice in a row, right? Obviously, the whole Caleb Williams thing, and I know that there's going to be a national narrative around that, especially with how good Jaden Daniels looked and everything else, happening last year, and then, this year with Ben Johnson becoming the head coach. I don't know how to put this. I mean, I guess the only way to say this is if things don't align now, I don't see how they're ever going to. I mean, you're talking about, one of the best quarterbacks to come out in a draft in forever in Caleb Williams, and we'll see obviously how he develops over the next, few years with a stable offensive staff. And then you go out and you get a guy that most Bears fans wanted last year when they thought Eberflus should have been fired. He didn't take a job last year. He comes into this cycle, takes 4 interviews. New England gets knocked out. It's down between 3 teams. I'm sure you were tracking the same thing. It's like, it seemed like Ben Johnson to the Bears was a lock before the season ended, and then all of a sudden the season ends. Tom Brady steps into the fold as a minority owner in Vegas, and all of a sudden there's just a ton of smoke around Vegas and Ben Johnson, and it's like logically it never made a whole lot of sense. But after a while, you start seeing all these insiders, trusted insiders, that were kind of buying into everything as well, and you're thinking, okay, well maybe it's going to be Mike McCarthy, maybe it's going to be somebody like Todd Monken. But in the end, obviously, it ends up being Ben Johnson, and it just, again, I mean, you talk about a franchise that has struggled to get offensive talent, to have a consistent offensive product, and now you have what should be your franchise quarterback for the next 10, 15-plus years, and now you've got a guy in Ben Johnson who, by all accounts, has been the best offensive mind in the league over the last 3 years. Again, if something goes wrong here, I don't know what else. You go back to the drawing board, but I don't know what else you can do.
Aaron, what did you like in watching? Certainly, you're right there in the division, the Bears and the Lions, and gotten an up-close view at what's been a top 5 offense the last 3 years as he's been the offensive coordinator. They were number 1 in points per game this season. As you've watched, and certainly they check a lot of boxes with their roster, which the Bears still have to do in the offensive line side of things, but what should Bears fans expect from a Ben Johnson system, play caller, just what he's done in terms of the scheme in Detroit that obviously you hope it carries over there to Chicago?
Well, I think one of the interesting things with the top, in my opinion, the top 4 offensive-minded candidates with, Ben Johnson, Liam Cohen, who the Bears did an interview, Joe Brady, and then Todd Monken, was that they're very balanced. And that's something I think, going back 15, 20 years, I mean, the Bears have always struggled with balance. They've either been a run-first team and they couldn't pass the ball, or, during the Trestman era, it was like those 2 years they were passing the ball way more, and, Matt Forte was still really good, but they weren't running the ball enough. And I think that that's one of the things, especially with Ben Johnson, that stands out. It's like you can talk about his creativity and his trick plays and everything else, but I think just understanding the basics of pass concepts, I think that's something that we've really seen the Bears struggle with over these last few years between Luke Getsy, Shane Waldron, and frankly, even Thomas Brown. It was the same way after a few games. It was like guys are not getting open. How do you have DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Rome Odunze on the same roster, and none of those guys are getting open? And I think that that's something that you're not going to see anymore. I think you're going to finally see these guys getting open. You're finally going to see an offensive scheme that makes sense. And I think the other big thing to me with a guy like Ben Johnson, where I think a lot of people are kind of getting hung up on, Jared Goff is a quarterback in Detroit. Ben Johnson did some really good things with him in Detroit. But the best coaches in general, not just offensive coaches, but coaches in general, adjust to their personnel. And I think that's exactly what he's going to do in Chicago. He's not going to come in and try to run the Detroit Lion offense with Jared Goff behind center at quarterback. He's going to run, his concepts and what he's going to do, but he's going to tailor that around the personnel around the quarterback. And I think that that's kind of where you can get excited, is that you're finally getting an offensive mind that isn't coming in like a Shane Waldron or Luke Getsy and saying, hey, this is how we're going to do things. You guys need to adjust to me. The best coaches do the exact opposite, and I think that there's been 3 years' worth of evidence showing that Ben Johnson has done exactly that, and I expect the same thing to happen with Caleb Williams and with the offensive weapons that they have and may add in the future.
Aaron, who do you give the most credit to that this got done, that the Bears obviously tabbed him as their number 1 choice and were able to get it across the finish line, and that also Ben Johnson obviously wanted Chicago on the other side of it?
Yeah, well, I think the thing that, when you really look at this, at least in my opinion, I know a lot of people have been hard on Kevin Warren. I don't particularly like, hearing Kevin Warren talk because it feels like a politician. But with that being said, the guy has been around a lot of success in his lifetime in football. And I think that him coming into the Bears organization, becoming the team president, has been a big deal on multiple fronts. And I know obviously the stadium stuff hasn't worked out quite yet, but I think that him coming out in that press conference, a disaster of a press conference, if we're being honest, and saying, like, this is the top job in football, and them going out and getting the top candidate, I think that has a lot to do with it. And I think that him bringing the mentality and the attitude of, we're Chicago. Like, Chicago is one of the best cities in the world. Like, we need to treat that as such. We are in the second biggest NFL market in the entire league. Like, we need to be playing like the big dogs. And I think that him having that influence on George McCaskey allowed the Bears to, one, not only go out and be able to big game hunt, but two, be able to actually back that up with the money. I mean, we don't know, and I don't know that we ever will, because the Bears are always weird about this, but the rumor so far is that Ben Johnson got anywhere from 5 to 6 years, and anywhere from $13 to $15 million a year. And just to give you an idea, Matt Eberflus was making about $6 million. And I want to say Nagy before him, he got a 4-year deal, and he was making about $5 million a year. So this is a huge step up. I mean, this is close to Jim Harbaugh money. And that's not something that I think a lot of people would have even believed that the Bears would do last year. So I think Kevin Warren has a very big part in all this, and I think that he's kind of coming in and changing the entire mentality of this is not a mom and pop shop. Like, this is one of the charter franchises in the NFL. You guys have sucked. I mean, there's really no other way to put it. Like, and there's a reason behind that, and it's because of the way that they've operated. Obviously, there's been some bad luck involved, but they need to start operating like a charter franchise, and I think that Kevin Warren is slowly pushing in that direction. I think this move shows it.
Aaron Leming is our guy for Bears Talk. He's joining us now on the Tapman's Towing phone line. You can follow him on Twitter at Aaron Leming NFL. There's been talk leading up to this, and I'm wondering your take on it now that it pushes forward. Does the head coach and the GM, do their timelines need to be similar? I think that George McCaskey spoke when he did most recently and said that he didn't feel like that was necessarily a requirement for the job or for a candidate to say, hey, I got to have now Ryan extended or whatever it might be. And there's, as far as the Raiders and the reporting around it, is that maybe Ben Johnson not only would be aligned with the new GM, but maybe even have some say on who that would be. But what impact do you think this has on Ryan Poles? Do you think it is a situation where he will be extended, or will it be a situation that maybe him and Ben, in terms of the end of their contracts, won't necessarily be the same?
Yeah, well, and that's a good question, right? Because when you look at what George McCaskey said following that press conference, the end of the year press conference, and then even the weird comment that Kevin Warren made about, a year in the NFL is a lifetime. It's like, it's not an answer. Again, kind of going back to the whole political thing, like, that's not an answer. Like, that's more of a politician's answer. I wish I had a better answer. From everything that I've been able to gather so far, and maybe there'll be some more clarity tomorrow at the press conference or whatever the case may be, from everything I've gathered, Ryan Poles is still on the same contract that he was before, which everything so far has been rumored it's a 4-year deal, which means he would be going into a lame duck season. Now, there's two ways to look at that. One, they could extend him and not say anything, or two, this could be a situation where, there was a lot of talk that Ben Johnson wanted alignment, but it wasn't just alignment. It wasn't just, I want the GM of the team that I'm going into to be on the same wavelength and the same contract status, but, he wanted his own guys. So this could be a situation, again, could be, I have no idea, where maybe he's simply saying, like, I've got the quarterback, I've got, a solid roster, like, I have enough faith in myself to be able to get this done, that if it doesn't work out, if Ryan Poles really isn't a lame duck here, which rarely happens for GMs or head coaches, we just saw it play out with Mike McCarthy and it didn't work out too well for Dallas, then you're kind of looking at a situation where, Ben Johnson could get his GM next year if things don't work out. But again, it's pretty rare for that to happen. So ultimately, I do think one way or the other, the exact alignment is never really going to be a thing. Matt Eberflus got a 5-year deal and Ryan Poles got a 4-year deal. It's relatively common for GMs to have shorter deals, but I do think at some point in time, they're going to have to extend him out, even if it's a year, just to not make him a lame duck GM. But I guess we'll see. I don't know. The Bears are so weird about this kind of thing. It never has really made a whole lot of sense to me, but this is going on the third different regime where they just simply do not want to talk about contracts. They don't want to talk about contract length, anything like that. So I don't know that we'll be getting any of that information anytime soon.
Yeah, that will be interesting to see if anything, as far as clarity, comes out tomorrow when Ben Johnson is announced by the franchise. The reporting has been that Dennis Allen is expected to be the defensive coordinator of his choice. I know they'll have to go through interview processes and whatnot, but a guy who has been a head coach before, has been obviously a DC for New Orleans. What would you make of that decision of pairing him with Ben Johnson and what he could do defensively?
Well, there's been a lot of talk, and I think this might have been somewhat of a compromise, because from what I'd heard, and again, this is just more kind of rumors floating around than anything, Kevin Warren wanted more of a experienced leader, and Ryan Poles was more focused on, let's get the best offensive guy we can that checks the leadership box. And I think that the compromise within that was Ben Johnson, and this was, reported yesterday, like you said, with Dennis Allen, even Darren Rizzi. I mean, he's a guy that, Adam Schefter reported that the Bears had interest, and there was mutual interest depending on if he got a head coaching job. He's not going to get a head coaching job. I can tell you that right now. Like, that's just not going to, he's not getting one of those jobs. That's nothing against him. He did a good job with New Orleans when he took over. But then he goes on his either radio or podcast and basically said that the expectation is that Rizzi will come with Dennis Allen. So, I mean, that's two guys that you're talking about that have head coaching experience, that have been around, in the league a long time. So I think that you're kind of meeting in the middle there, where you're saying, okay, we're hiring a first-time head coach, but we're bringing in a guy in Dennis Allen who's a really good defensive mind. I know a lot of people look at how bad he's been as a head coach, but I mean, just look at Vic Fangio. I mean, Bears fans, all you have to do is go back and look at Vic Fangio's time in Denver, and he was not a good head coach. There was a reason that he hadn't got a head coaching opportunity, and then obviously he did in his late 50s, and it didn't work out. But then he goes to Philadelphia this year, and they're one game away from the Super Bowl. He's one of the best defensive minds in football. He's just not a good head coach, and I think that's the same exact thing with Dennis Allen. So I think it makes a lot of sense. Allen runs a relatively similar scheme to what Bears fans are used to seeing with Eberflus. It's going to be, 4-3, a lot of zone, a lot of cover two, but the difference is he likes to blitz a lot more, and he likes to find creative ways to get pressure, and the coverage is more, I would say, a little less rudimentary. So it makes a ton of sense. I think the biggest thing to kind of take away from this, though, is even though Ben Johnson's a first-time head coach, I mean, you're talking about a guy that, with some of the names that they've had tied to him so far, he's got some serious respect around the league already, and that's going to be huge, especially for a young, inexperienced coach.
A few more minutes here with Aaron Lemming on the Tapman's Towing phone line. On the note of defense, Aaron, I've just been thinking about this, and obviously the conversation around Dennis Allen will point you in this direction. And still plenty of offseason. You got the draft, you got free agency, and the Bears do have a good amount of cap room to address some things. But the defense really did not play up to par this season, and certainly Matt Eberflus with that whole situation and just a locker room that was lost and plenty of turmoil and chatter around everything, and whether the guys just lost faith in him and weren't playing up to their potential because they didn't believe in that guy, and then you fire him and everything. I'm struggling to land, Aaron, on how I feel about this unit. I'm curious in your thoughts on it. Like, this was one at the end of last year that we thought could be a top 10 defense in the NFL this year because they played like it down the back half of the previous season. And how much do you attribute the Eberflus and just a bad situation, or the talent that didn't have the seasons that we expected they would have? Like, Jalen Johnson wasn't, not that I don't have faith in him going forward, but he wasn't a lockdown, shutdown corner like he seemed to be the previous year.
Yeah, well, I definitely think the Eberflus stuff had a lot to do with it. I mean, I think it was a combination of two things. I think it was, one, the coaching. I mean, just listening to what the players had to say, both during the time that, Eberflus was there when things were starting to go downhill and after. I mean, it was very clear that he had lost that defense. And, and then you look at just how they're constructed. I mean, just look at what Ryan Poles has done in the last 3 years for the defense. I mean, the money that he spent, I mean, you're looking at off-the-ball linebackers, you're looking at safeties, you're looking at corners with extending Jalen Johnson, which, again, there's nothing wrong with that. Jalen Johnson shouldn't have gone anywhere. They made the right move. But then you look at the defensive line, and especially when they started having injuries, I mean, they were already struggling against the run this year after being, one of the best defenses against the run last year. And once again, down the stretch, they couldn't get any pressure on the quarterback. I mean, Montez Sweat still led the team in sacks, but he had less than 7 sacks. I mean, I think really what this comes down to is regardless of who the defensive mind is in there, you're only going to have limited success if you're terrible in the trenches. And really what it comes down to is, yes, your Von Dexter took the next step forward. Andrew Billings is a really good nose tackle. Montez Sweat is probably more of like a low-end 1, more of a, probably a 2. But at the same time, when you have nothing else to help them out, when you have no depth, I mean, Zach Pickens was their 3rd-round pick from last year, and he was a healthy scratch towards the end of the season for guys like Jonathan Ford, who were claimed off the Green Bay practice squad, in the last 4 weeks of the season. I mean, that's the kind of stuff right there where you look at it, and it's like, I think that more than anything, obviously you got to get the right coach in there, and you got to get the right scheme. But I think more than anything, and this is something that I've said and I'm going to continue to echo, 90 to 95% of their resources this offseason need to go towards the trenches. Both the defensive and offensive line, they need to get at least 2 more defensive ends. They need to get at least 1 more, if not 2, defensive tackles. And I think if you start getting stronger in the trenches, then all of a sudden you're not relying on, your overpaid linebacker and Tremaine Edmonds to consistently shed blocks and do things that ultimately he's just not that good at doing. And I think that, when you have that talent up front, it really is kind of a trickle-down effect to the rest of the roster, and it makes everybody else look better, especially on the back half of the defense.
Aaron, before we let you go, I wanted to get your thoughts on what's been brewing with the NFL playoffs. Of course, Ben Johnson's team did fall, giving up 45 points there to the Commanders. And you've mentioned before, and I've said it as a Bears fan, I think now with the Johnson hire and how I'm feeling about the future, I'm less maybe self-conscious or trying to really actively root against the Commanders to go down, because I don't want to hear the narrative of Jaden Daniels is better than Caleb and the Bears messed up and all that kind of thing. But what he has been doing has been impressive. I'm not saying that I know for certain that I'd trade Caleb for him as of today or anything like that. But what do you think about them going up against the Eagles, and then on the other side of it as well, another heavyweight Allen versus Mahomes matchup too?
Yeah, I mean, Jaden Daniels has been incredible. I mean, I think earlier on in the year, I think you can make a lot of arguments that the offense was helping him out a lot. The scheming was helping him out a lot. And then obviously Cliff Kingsbury's been a heck of a lot better than I thought he would be as an offensive play caller. But I mean, just some of the throws that Daniels has made, and his poise and their success on 4th down, and the amount of trust that they have in him is really impressive. I mean, frankly, the fact that they made the playoffs, I had them as a 6-win team going into the season, and that wasn't even a knock on Daniels. I wasn't super high on Daniels, which obviously I was wrong about. But I mean, it's absolutely incredible that, getting the right coaching staff in and getting the right front office guys in there to make the right decisions can really turn things around in a year's span. And that's what Bears fans have to hope for. I know every year we're referencing some other team that went from, first or worst to first, or whatever the case may be. Hopefully that will be the Bears, and people will start referencing them at some point soon. But yeah, I mean, with the playoffs, I think obviously Detroit losing was somewhat of a surprise. I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll have to see what happens. It's when I look at the NFC right now, I mean, frankly, Washington's been considerably better than any other team in the NFC right now. Even Philadelphia. I mean, Philadelphia has not really looked that good. Jalen Hurts does not look healthy. He has not looked very good throwing the ball this year. I'm not a huge believer in Kellen Moore as the offensive mind, and then kind of switching over to the AFC. I know a lot of people are going to hate me saying this, but I don't want to see the Chiefs back in the Super Bowl. I want something new. I want to see Josh Allen. It would have been the same thing if the Ravens would have won. I want to see new blood in there in the AFC to kind of make things more interesting. The last thing I want to see, I'll be honest with you, is another Super Bowl rematch of the Eagles and Chiefs again. Like, I just don't want to see it.
I know, right? No, I'm right there with you. I am afraid now that they added Caitlin Clark to the super team. Apparently, that's just is maybe something that's too much to deal with. I don't know. We can pray. My buddy sitting here, Kyle, is a Dolphins fan, so he's up against it this week. He doesn't want to see the Bills in the Super Bowl. He doesn't want to see Mahomes do it again. So I could see him really battling it. But for the most part, I think people are going to be comfortable jumping on that Bills bandwagon going into this weekend for sure. Aaron, great talking football with you. Great talking about Ben Johnson. We had something to brighten the spirits today, which I certainly appreciated. We'll have to maybe catch up around draft time. I know the Bears will be picking number 10 and 2 second-round picks as well. So we'll do that down the road, man. But appreciate taking the time out for us today.
Yeah, absolutely. As always, man. Always appreciate you guys having me on.
No doubt. Enjoyed it. Aaron Lemming joining us on the Tapman's Towing phone line. Read his stuff at the Bear Report. Follow him on Twitter at Aaron Lemming NFL. Definitely not a unique and out there take to say, hey, we don't want Kansas City, and everybody is on that board.
For me, it's gotten bad enough to where I will be supporting the Bills. I just can't do it with the Chiefs anymore. Give me somebody else. And that Bills team's, I mean, Josh Allen is awesome. It'd be fun to watch him against either Hurts or Jalen Daniels. I don't want to do the Chiefs thing again. Somebody else needs to get it done. I'll be rooting for the NFC personally.
Yeah,
when
no
when it's all said and done, but a Chiefs-free Super Bowl would be a nice change of pace.
Are we going to look back and be like, remember when we all actively rooted against maybe the greatest quarterback of all time or one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and we should have just sat there and taken as much of it as we could have gotten? Probably not, right?
I don't know.
It's exhaustion. I get it. Like we even, as somebody that has been throughout his career a huge Steph Curry fan, I understand when people got sick of the Warriors. I got it. I understood it. People got sick of seeing LeBron and the Warriors in every NBA Finals if you're an NBA person. And probably going to get sick of the Dodgers. Already there in terms of them getting literally everybody.
I'm already sick of them.
Already done.
It's been one World Series in this offseason. That's a conversation for another day about what they're doing to baseball right now. It's ridiculous.
And I think if KC, if there wasn't as many calls that are going their way, I think we've done enough officiating conversation for the week in yesterday's show about Illinois and Michigan State, but there's that vibe about it. There's, of course, the overkill of the Kelsey Taylor Swift deal.
Just feels like everything goes their way. They always find a way to sneak them out. That
too.
I don't know.
Feel lucky.
It's not even. And again, I do like watching Mahomes and have a lot of respect for the Chiefs, obviously, but there's just something about the way they win that just feels gross sometimes. Of course, the Chiefs got this one done. This year in particular, I don't think they scored 30 points one time all year, but missed field goals, false start penalties, that one Raiders game or whatever it was where, I forget who they were playing, maybe it was Denver, where the official was going to call a false start and then, no, we're going to change the call. I don't know. Something about this Chiefs team.
Yeah, if this was a 50-touchdown year for Mahomes and he was just like, this is the best quarterback play we've ever seen. Now, look, he's still that guy in terms of he can do it in any given game. He can perform in the clutch. I think we probably just concede like they're just that much better than everybody else. Now, they're the most trustworthy team left in the playoffs, and they were going into it because they have that guy, because they have a great defense, because they have a great head coach. But the eye test, just if the resume didn't come with it, which I know you can't cross that out because you could have said the same thing about, as Scott says, he mentions Tom Brady, who he rooted for, and he was a guy that people got sick of, obviously, especially in New England. That it maybe wasn't always pretty, but did you want to see Tom Brady in the playoffs? You just always had a knack for getting it done, him and Belichick. What I was getting at, though, if the resume wasn't there, or you just looked at the eye test, you wouldn't think that KC is clearly better than Buffalo, that they're clearly the best team left. I know maybe Detroit being knocked out, who looked like the most complete team previously, in my opinion, that might change things, but he is still Patrick Mahomes.
I still thought going into the playoffs, if you made me pick a Super Bowl winner, I wasn't picking anybody other than Kansas City.
Right. We learned our lesson last year. We both picked Baltimore, right?
Mm-hmm. Not doing that
Baltimore.
again. We can talk about these two games later this week, but not doing that again.
Yeah.
If you make me actually make a prediction, I'll assume the Chiefs find a way. And Mahomes, that is the one thing to me that I have appreciated, as much as I've been sick of the Chiefs and I would like somebody else to make it, just get, like Aaron said, new blood in the Super Bowl for once. it does feel like in the postseason, even in a few of these years where Mahomes maybe hasn't actually played great in the regular season, or he hasn't had the 50 touchdown numbers, he is an all-time playoff performer already. He makes incredible plays, and he does step up. And, in the Super Bowl last year, made a couple huge plays to win that. And I do have a lot of respect watching that, and I do enjoy watching the best quarterback in the sport make plays like he does. I'd prefer if we got a different matchup for once.
Yeah, not like you can go wrong with watching Josh Allen do his thing. I'd love to see him get a crack at it as well. I wanted to bring this up. I was looking at it yesterday. Eagles currently a 6 or 6.5, depending on where you're looking, point favorite at home against the Commanders on Sunday as the first of a doubleheader, and then the Chiefs -2 at home against the Bills. Hard not to just throw the money down on KC and be like, we all know they're going to win.
They probably will, especially it's at Arrowhead. Every AFC Championship game's at Arrowhead, and they find a way.
Finally, there was finally a year where Peyton beat Brady. I think that was in Indy, though, so him
That
going
was
to
late.
Foxborough was never – and it was later on. But
yeah, if there was one quarterback to take down Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, there's a lot of good quarterbacks in the AFC.
Obviously,
but if
Burrow did it once.
He did. Yeah, he's kind of been the guy. Even there was a narrative before this postseason, Kansas City doesn't want to see the Bengals. Well, I think they would have been okay. The Bengals defense is one of the worst in the league. I get it, but I do think Josh Allen is the best chance of being like that guy. And just the fact that Buffalo's been in it every year, and I don't think they're going anywhere, unfortunately. I think you could have kind of maybe an arrival moment if Josh Allen does walk into Arrowhead and lead the Bills to victory here, to where, hey, maybe it is a situation where we get this Bills-Chiefs rivalry building up, but Josh Allen steps up and finally takes that throne and it leads to something for Buffalo. I certainly don't want to see that, but if it happens, better than the Chiefs winning 8 in a row.
Yeah, we've been waiting for Buffalo. Know that Allen's that kind of talent, and that they've had really, really good teams the last couple of years, and lost a heartbreaker, of course, in Kansas City 2 seasons ago in the playoffs, and we'll see if this is the one they can pull through on. We'll talk more about those games as we go along
Real
this
quick,
week. Yep.
I was kind of going to ask this, and then I didn't ask it. If there, of the AFC quarterbacks, if there was one guy just going forward, say the next 5 to 7 years, that you would have the most trust in to beat the Chiefs, who would it be? Allen, Lamar, Burrow are probably your candidates. I don't know if you want to say that.
Justin Fields. I got to be consistent. Oh man, Lamar just hasn't been getting it done in the playoffs.
I know.
I think he's awesome. Obviously, he is.
I think if you told me that the 3 rosters were of equal quality, I'd still have to go Joe Burrow.
I'd go Burrow too. Yeah,
because we've seen him do it. He's the only one that's done it, and there's something about him. He just steps up. Even towards the end of this year, that Bengals team, their defense was awful, and he still has them right on the cusp of the playoffs. And his year this year was incredible, and there's games where he has 5 touchdowns, leading the Bengals to a 45-42 victory because their defense can't stop anybody. If that Bengals defense improves and they get back to the AFC title game, meet the Chiefs, I think Burrow would be the guy I feel most comfortable with. I still have a little hesitation heading into this Sunday with Allen, just because we've seen that matchup, and Mahomes has found a way every time. 13 seconds is all he needed 3 or 4 years ago with the Tyreek Hill throw. And the fact that we've seen Burrow do it, he's the only guy, I think I'd still lean his way. But that Bengals team has a long way to go, I think.
Burrow with the moxie, with the cool under pressure, like that, talent-wise, you can't really give an edge, I don't think, over Allen and Lamar, because you add in on just such a dynamic playability about those guys. But he has been better in the playoffs, and then obviously I know it's a different setting, but to do what he did when they won the national title at LSU, I can't help but give even more of that to him as just a winner, a gamer in the clutch. And Lamar, for whatever reason, not all his fault. Mark Andrews catches that. Things get really interesting there in Buffalo. Obviously, it ties it, and we'll see what happens. And then Allen played great in Kansas City when they lost that at the very end. That wasn't his fault. Their defense
Certainly
gave
not.
up, 30-something or whatever it was.
And then the whole playoff coin toss. Of course, the Chiefs win it.
Yep.
They march down and score. Allen doesn't get to touch it again.
Right. And he's been a lot better. Last year, at the end of the year, there's a lot of critique around his turnovers. Like, he was a guy that was so loose with the ball for as talented as he was, and he's done a better job of that this year. And it helps their run game's a lot better this year. James Cook's been a beast. So
I guess if you include the context, you have enough belief that the Bengals will get back to a place where they're in the AFC Championship, because they just were so bad defensively this year. They're always going to have a chance when you got Burrow and Chase together long term.
It was one of the questions, right? When they lost the Rams, it's like, well, you wanted to be like, because of how good Burrow is, like, hey, they'll be back. They'll get another crack at it, but it's not necessarily true. I wouldn't say it's not necessarily guaranteed because
the Bills and Ravens have proven more consistent top of the AFC teams. The Bengals had a nice couple year stretch, and then obviously the year where he took down Mahomes, but they feel like a little ways away now.
I agree. I think you're right in framing it that if we're considering all else equal, I would still crown Joe Burrow that guy. After that, I think Josh Allen, although that maybe does feel a little prisoner at the moment because he just beat Lamar, and Lamar has the record he has in the postseason. But we'll see. We'll see.
Sunday, it could be the one.
Legacies, narratives, all that is on the line, and a chance to go to the Super Bowl for Josh Allen and company when they go to KC. Look forward to talking more about those games throughout the week. Due for a break. We'll be back. This is The Drive.
Dedicated Diesel, home of the Dixie Chopper, still got Gail Frerich's used Dixie Chopper laying around the yard there? Or?
Yeah, I believe Gale's is still there. It is a great machine, a big classic, and then we have a couple more really good used models I'd like to get rid of before the snow's gone. But now's the time to check out some great deals while your grass is covered up. I know most people aren't thinking about mowing yet, but this is the time that the prices are going to be the lowest.
How can people reach Tim Onstadt?
They can get me at TIMO@GFTLOG.com and call the office at 765-793-7131. Get a hold of Andy. The shop is 1313 Triumph Drive in Urbana, 217-328-0562, or Dedicated Equipment on Facebook.
You're the man. Thank you so much, Tim. Always a pleasure. Thanks,
you. Guys.
You bet.
Hi, I'm Tyler Weaver, president of Carpet Weavers Flooring and Furniture Gallery. It's time to come home to Carpet Weavers. We don't want you to just like your new floors. We want you to love them. From waterproof floors and carpet to furnitures and design advice, we've got a team of experts on your side. We'll get you the best price and the best quality products. And complete your home with furniture and accessories. Buy it all with free financing too. Come home to Carpet Weavers, where floors, furniture, and family meet.
See You at Home's One Winter Night Outdoor Challenge comes our way in early February, and now is the time to get involved in this powerful opportunity for our community to learn about homelessness and build empathy for the people served, raising funds to support the mission of See You at Home. Participants can register to take part in the One Winter Night Outdoor Challenge on February 7th. As you get involved in this vital ministry, experiencing difficulties faced by homeless individuals on cold winter nights, spending the night in an outdoor tent or car or makeshift shelter, getting together a team, or serving as an individual. Events like One Winter Night are crucial in helping raise necessary funds in this life-changing, supportive event to break the cycle of homelessness and achieve long-term stability. Your participation directly contributes to these transformative outcomes. For details, visit seeyouathome.us.
At Pards in Urbana, the boots just keep on coming. They're known for their huge collection of men's cowboy boots, women's cowgirl boots, kids' boots, and even shoes. If you're searching for top footwear brands, look no further than Pards. They carry a wide variety, including Ariat, Dan Post, Smoky Mountain, Roper, Double H, and more. And if socks or accessories are what you need, they've got all your high-quality essentials. Since 1968, Pards has been serving their customers with high-quality merchandise. And if you haven't been to Pards in a while, a lot has changed. Go check them out just off University Avenue in Urbana.
I'm Justin Ike, co-owner of Fred's Plumbing, Heating, Air Conditioning, Electric, and Underground.
So, Justin, tell me what you see as typical when it comes to sewer repair. Give me a scenario.
Your sewer's backed up and somebody comes along and says, you need this repair for X amount of dollars. Here's my price. And you don't think to go looking for another company or a second opinion because you don't feel like you have time.
So is it possible that you might get charged a little more because it's kind of a desperate moment? Do some companies do that?
Oh, absolutely they will. They know you're in a pinch. Typically, if you call us, me or Will can be out there within an hour to look at that problem for you. Whether you call me first or you call me second, make sure you give me a call.
Anything else, Justin?
You can always trust Fred's.
Great to know. Thank you. That's Justin Ike, the co-owner of Fred's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning, Electric, and Underground. If you want more information about this great 45-year family-owned company, just go to fredscu.com. That's fredscu.com.
When you're buying a battery, it's important to look beyond just the price and make sure you're buying a quality battery. So when you're buying one from the big box store, make sure you ask the question, what's the date on this battery? Is it dependable? Sometimes the big box stores have batteries that have been sitting on the shelf for years. Or you can just come to Interstate Batteries, outrageously dependable, and buy your battery from the people who only do batteries. Interstate Batteries at 2504 North Madison, Champaign, way out there, but totally worth the drive. How much is dependable worth to you? Interstate Batteries open 6 days a week.
Jet's Pizza is offering a special deal when you spend $25. Just use promo code 5ADD. That's the number 5ADD and specify Jet's bread or cinnamon sticks for only $5. Combine that with their current $5 off pizza promos and you can cheer on the Illini while enjoying hot pizza with your favorite Jet's bread or cinnamon sticks. What a deal. You spend $25, enter 5ADD for Jet's bread or cinnamon sticks for just $5. Jet's, better because it has to be.
Back on the drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. Good stuff with Aaron Lemming, talking Bears. Interested to see if the approval rating on Bears press conferences goes up tomorrow. You'd imagine it would have to, right? Good news, good vibes.
You can only go up from Eberflus.
Oh, boy.
To me, and I didn't listen to him as much as I'm sure you did, but felt like he just struggled up there. There was not a lot of sense that came out of his mouth.
Definitely not. No, and didn't like the last presser of Kevin Warren either.
Yeah,
I need somebody to step up.
Kevin Warren is not a good listen in any situation.
Certainly not. Nope. Someone needs to. Maybe I need to drive to Chicago to make sure it gets done. You want to handle the Underwood, and I'll go up there and cover Ben Johnson. Like, was the pressure of Eddie George interviewing, knowing that he might take this job before you, is that really what pushed it over the edge?
Or who else did they bring in? The Giants offensive coordinator. He's got the 31st ranked offense in the league right now.
I forgot what that guy's name
was.
was.
Kafka.
Was Matt Campbell from Iowa State. Were you worried? The OC of the Packers. Because we should do that again.
Getsy worked out great.
Yeah, he was good. Really good. So good he didn't make it through the year in Las Vegas.
Yeah, didn't he get fired after 7 games?
Yeah. I was stunned. Oh, boy. Well, yep, we'll see what that looks like. And, yes, Brad will talk to the media tomorrow about Maryland coming to town. The Illini return to action against the Terps on Thursday and then turn around and play Northwestern on Sunday. We talked yesterday, Big Ten title picture. Looking tonight, it's a tall task. We are, and Kyle and I discussed it yesterday, certainly a big microscope under Purdue or over Purdue, looking at the Boilers now who could really use a loss at home. I don't think Ohio State tonight is going to be the one to do it. 9.5-point favorite for the Boilers. That one's on Peacock at 6:30. You got Iowa hosting Minnesota on BTN.
Yuck. That game is terrible.
No interest. At least that starts at 8, but at 8:30 you'll have UCLA and Wisconsin. That should be a good game.
I like that matchup.
And Oregon and Washington, BTN, at 10 p.m. I don't think that one's worth staying up for.
No, I don't think so. Oregon's such a weird team. Their resume's incredible, but you watch them play and you're like, this is a ranked team? Really?
Yeah, they're much closer in like that. I think KenPom has them like 25. That seems
Makes
a lot more in line than top 10 type, which they had the AP ranking and had the resume that deserved it, and they beat Alabama when Illinois went to Eugene and beat them. But Illinois has knocked them off there. Purdue's knocked them off there. It'll be a quad one for Illinois' purposes of things, but I thought maybe because of their schedule, they don't go to Illinois, they don't go to Purdue, they would be a Big Ten title challenger. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case.
No, it doesn't. If there was a team outside of that top 4 group that it feels like it's narrowed down to in terms of a Big Ten title race, I guess you could throw Wisconsin in there. They're ahead of Illinois right now. They got 2 losses.
Yep.
But Michigan State, Purdue, Illinois feels like now almost halfway into the conference season, entering late January, that's kind of your top group in the Big Ten. Is there a team outside of that group that you've been particularly impressed by or you'd be buying more than the rest of the field?
It's a good question. I liked Penn State going into the year, but I certainly didn't love them when they lost by 39 to Illinois without Kasparis. They're 3-5 in the Big Ten race so far. That's interesting to try to land on somebody. So you, like you said, MSU 7-0, Purdue 7-1, Michigan 6-1, Wisconsin 5-2, Illinois 5-3.
I think if you're narrowing it to the 4 and give me anybody else, I would take Wisconsin because I think they've flown under the radar a little bit. Their offense is pretty spectacular. I mean, they are scoring the ball at a really high clip. Put up 116 on Iowa. Now, Iowa's not guarding anybody, but they're scoring it, and Blackwell's playing great. Tanji's been a heck of a piece. They've just got guys contributing. Their front court's played better. Kamari McGee's shooting like 60% from 3 off the bench. They're a solid team. I don't know how, but
they're 15-3 overall, sitting there 21st on KenPom.
I don't think they've lost a game since they came to Champaign. I could be wrong on that.
You're correct. You are correct. Hasn't been a murderer's row. They beat Iowa at home, like you said, blasted them. Beat Ohio State there in Madison. That was a close game. Did go on the road and just beat USC. They're trying to sweep that road trip tonight, which that was kind of a conversation when Illinois did it. It was like, I don't know how many people are going west and winning both games. It might end up being a number of them. Michigan did it. Illinois did it. Purdue just did it. If Wisconsin does it, then that really isn't going to be a separator as far as the Big Ten title chase. But, yeah, I haven't allowed myself to really put Wisconsin on that same tier as the other teams, really. But maybe I should. If they win tonight, that would be their, 8th win in a row?
If they go to UCLA tonight and win, get to 6-2 in the league, yeah, might be time to maybe put them in that mix with everybody else.
I think that might be fair, too, because as you cut that thing off, there's just been teams that have been really inconsistent.
Yep.
Like Oregon, I thought was going to be in that second tier. They're not as of right now.
I made a mistake buying a Kevin Willard team early this year. That guy can't win a road game. I mean, it's unbelievable.
You're right. They are 0-4 in Big Ten play on the road. Lost an OT at Northwestern on that buzzer beater. About ready to get set to come to Champaign and then Bloomington. Now, can they win at Indiana? Maybe, maybe not.
Indiana's so weird because they haven't had a terrible season so far. You'd think based on the dialogue around them, they're like 8-12.
Yeah, yeah.
They're 5-3 in the Big Ten. That's the same record Illinois has. Now, schedule's a big part of that, and the way they always lose is the tough part, right? But they did go on the road at Ohio State and win. Luke Goody had a nice night after he was chirping Dan Dakich on Twitter after the Illinois game. And there's always that thought that if they could just put it together with that talent, who's to say they couldn't go like 11-9 in the league and be an 8 seed in the tournament? I wouldn't count on it because Woodson isn't. I don't know what he's doing over there, but you look at where they're positioned right now, and it's really not that bad of a spot.
It's not. No, yeah, that's a great point. 14-5. The way the frustrations boiled over in Bloomington and the way they're looked at around the league and even nationally, I think that you'd almost view them as like a Juwan Howard. This team's dead in the water. Definitely not going to the tournament. Maybe not even making the NIT type of squad, which they're still facing a really tough stretch. Ken Pom says they'll be an underdog in the next 8 games.
Yeah.
At Northwestern, home against Maryland, winnable game. Both of them, really. At Purdue, at Wisconsin, that's really tough. Then return home for Michigan, then they go to Michigan State. That's where it could get really brutal for them.
I guess the problem with them is if they play a legitimately good team, you expect them to get blown out.
They've gotten smoked, right? They haven't just lost their big games. They've gotten just beat down outside of Ohio State.
I'm certainly not running to buy them as a team that's going to turn it around. I just was interesting to see how they're positioned right now versus what the dialogue has been. They're actually in an okay spot, and I think you look on bracketology, they're in the tournament, just barely grasping like a bubble spot in the first 4 right now. So they are a team that's in there. I guess there's one team I could still see having a pretty good season and has already shown the ability to do some impressive things. UCLA still sitting there as a team with an identity. They're a really good defensive team. I think they're top 3 in the Big Ten in defensive efficiency. They've got a coach that's had plenty of success in Mick Cronin. He certainly doesn't.
He's won 500 games.
He certainly doesn't mince words in press conferences, but he's a guy that, you know, is one of those hard-nosed. He's going to make you guard, and he's going to call you out if he doesn't think you're playing well. And, yes, Sky Clark still starts. Yuck. Disgusting. But they did beat Gonzaga. They beat, they beat somebody else earlier in the non-conference. Or they went to Oregon, won a game. They beat Wisconsin tonight, get things back on track after that 4-game losing streak. I think they're a pesky team. That's not a team you want to see.
They beat Arizona, too, which looks a lot better now than it did.
That one was disgusting.
Yeah, I know. In the 50s in that game. I think that one was in Vegas. But they went through a 4-game losing streak, which turned a lot of people off, and they got beat down in a couple of those games.
They just couldn't score.
Yeah.
They can't score.
Right.
They're like one of those Steve Peichel Rutgers teams from a few years ago that seems like every game's in the low 60s, and that's their identity. And they actually are okay, but they can't make shots.
Right. There's been a handful of teams, even when we were digging through this about trying to figure out, has Illinois come back from a deficit in the Big Ten standings? That 2019-20 Illini squad, which is a really good one, lost 4 straight in the middle of February, I believe, or late January, early February, whatever it ultimately was, and still was the 4th seed in the Big Ten tournament. So they could bounce back from that. I know that people are tired of hearing Cronin do his thing in the media, but they aren't going to leave the West Coast until the middle of February now. They do go to USC, and they go to Washington as well, but they don't make their way on a cross-country flight. Yes, a longer cross-country flight than Hans D takes or took when he was a flight student, but until February 11th when they come to Illinois, and they will also go to Indiana. So
can Mick Cronin quit complaining about the travel stuff? UCLA
probably
doesn't leave
should.
the West Coast for 6 games starting tonight.
I know.
And actually they were at home in their last game against Iowa. So 7 straight games are on the West Coast. You got to make a couple trips out east. Come on. Like, really? We got to go on a rant about how, it's not the same at all. We're battling this atrocious schedule. There's no way we can survive this. Come on.
Talk to your higher-ups. They wanted the TV money. This is the trade-off. You wanted the TV money of the Big Ten? This is what you got to do. And that's just kind of the deal. Like, there's not nearly as many West Coast teams, and you got more trips coming this way to play your schedule, and that's the way it goes. I don't know how you ultimately fix that, but I do agree with you. Like from a talent standpoint, they are